I don't remember the first lunch she ever packed for me. I must have been 5, maybe 6, clutching a small blue lunchbox with a cracked plastic handle and a sticker that was already peeling at the edges. But even if I can't remember that specific day, I remember the feeling, the weight of it in my hands, the quiet pride of opening it at the cafeteria table, knowing that whatever was inside had been made by Mom. Back then, I didn't think much about the care that went into those lunches. I didn't consider how early she must have woken up. I didn't imagine her standing barefoot in the kitchen, while the house was still dark, with the hum of the refrigerator and the click of the bread toaster, the only sounds filling the quiet. All I knew was that every day, without fail, there was a lunch waiting for me. Always in a brown paper bag, always with a napkin carefully folded, and most days, a sandwich. Sometimes it was peanut butter and jelly cut diagonally, never straight across. Sometimes it was turkey with a single slice of lettuce and a tiny smear of mustard. She didn't like mustard, I'd later learn, but she knew I did. And sometimes on days that felt like little surprises it was bologna and cheese with a side of apple slices. The peel still on, slightly browning by lunchtime, but still sweet. I can still see her hands, always in motion, wrapping the sandwich in wax paper, folding the edges neatly, tucking it just so inside the bag. She packed lunches the way other people might arrange flowers or play piano gently, precisely, as though it meant something. And maybe it did. Because it wasn't just food. Not really. It was her way of saying, I see you. I'm thinking of you, even when you're not here. When I think back now, it wasn't just what was in the bag. It was that it was there. Every day, rain or shine. Good days, bad days, even when she was tired. Even when we'd had a fight that morning because I refused to wear the sweater she picked out. Even when I was a sullen, silent teenager who barely said thank you anymore. The bag was there, waiting. Sometimes there'd be a little note inside, just a sentence or two, scribbled in blue ink. You'll do great on your spelling test. Or Happy Friday, sweet boy, almost the weekend. I never showed my friends. I'd read them quickly and stuffed them in my pocket, pretending I was too old for that sort of thing. But I never threw them away, not one. She didn't ask if I liked the lunches. She never quizzed me when I got home. She just kept packing them. I realize now, all these years later, that it wasn't just about feeding me. It was about showing up, every day, quietly, lovingly, with crusts cut off and a juice box tucked inside. That was the kind of mother she was. And in those early years, before I understood what stress or exhaustion or sacrifice really meant, I thought that kind of love just ... happened. I didn't yet know how rare it was. I didn't yet understand the cost of consistency, or the strength it takes to give, over and over, even when no one says thank you. But she did. Every day. The first note I remember clearly was written on a napkin. It was 3rd grade. I had a spelling test that day and had been anxious about it all week. I'd practiced at the kitchen table the night before, stumbling over elephant and beautiful, and nearly crying, when I got Wednesday wrong for the 3rd time. That morning, as I unpacked my lunch at the cafeteria table, there it was tucked beneath the sandwich, a white napkin with blue ink that read, in her slightly slanted cursive, "You know all the words. Just believe in yourself. Love, Mom." I didn't know what to do with it. I looked around the table to see if anyone had seen it, then folded it quickly and stuffed it into my pocket like it was a secret. Because it was. A little piece of her, hidden in the middle of my day. I don't know when the notes became a regular thing. Maybe she noticed I walked a little taller that day. Or maybe she just knew I needed a little more than food to get through the day. Whatever the reason, they started appearing regularly: napkins, sticky notes, even scraps of old stationery cut to fit neatly inside the lunch bag. Sometimes they were reminders. Picture day today. Remember to smile. Other times they were silly. Your sandwich is extra cheesy today. Just like your jokes. And sometimes, they were quiet affirmations. You are kind. You are smart. You are mine. I didn't always read them at lunch. Sometimes I waited until the afternoon, when the day felt long and heavy. Sometimes I read them in secret, holding the paper beneath the desk while the teacher wrote on the board. Those tiny notes became a kind of lifeline, a gentle whisper that no matter what was happening around me, someone out there loved me completely. Even when the lunch was simple, just a banana and a peanut butter sandwich, those notes turned it into something more. They turned food into comfort, routine into ritual. I saved them, at first, without realizing I was doing it. I'd stuff them into the front pocket of my backpack, or the inside of my math folder. By the end of the year, I had a small stack of them in my bottom drawer at home, slightly crumpled, some with jelly stains, others faded from rubbing against pencils and erasers. But I kept them. And when I had a bad day, when someone teased me for wearing hand-me-down shoes, or when I got a math test back with a red C circled at the top, I would unfold one of those notes, smoothing it out carefully. It always helped. Even if it didn't change the day, it changed me. Because even when everything else felt uncertain, her words were there. Small but steady, quiet but powerful. She never once asked if I read them. Never demanded acknowledgement. That wasn't her way. She gave and gave and gave without expectation. I think now, looking back, that those notes weren't just encouragements. They were seeds, planted quietly, daily, in the soil of a growing heart. They taught me that love doesn't have to be loud to be lasting. That the most powerful things are often the most gentle. She taught me how to see the world not just through what people say, but through what they do. Through quiet consistency, through napkins and ink and unwavering belief. And all it took was one sentence at a time. Middle school was a blur of lockers, changing classes, and trying to be invisible. I stopped caring so much about what was in my lunch bag, and started caring more about who I was sitting with. There were days I forgot to say goodbye in the morning. Days I left the lunch she packed untouched, and weeks when I rolled my eyes at the notes, pretending they didn't mean anything anymore. I was growing up, or at least I thought I was. There was one day I'll never forget it. I left the house angry. I can't even remember what the fight was about. Something silly, probably. I slammed the door behind me. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't take the lunch bag, sitting quietly on the kitchen counter. At lunch, I sat at a table, pretending I wasn't hungry. Pretending it didn't matter. That's when the school office called my name over the PA system. When I got there, the receptionist smiled gently and handed me a brown paper bag. No note this time, just the lunch. Still warm. She must have seen me leave it, must have driven it over before work, quietly, without a word, without needing thanks. I sat on the bench outside the office and unwrapped the sandwich, turkey and cheese, my favorite. Halfway through, I found it tucked between two napkins. It's okay to be upset. I'll be here when you're ready. Love, Mom. I cried quietly where no one could see. That moment changed something in me. I realized that her love wasn't about whether I deserved it that day. It wasn't measured against how polite I was, or whether I remembered to say thank you. It just was. Constant, unshaken, given freely. She remembered when I forgot. She showed up when I pushed away. I went home that night and hugged her without a word. She didn't say anything either. She just held me. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed to know. Senior year was chaos, college applications, graduation countdowns, and the strange excitement of standing on the edge of everything. I had started making my own lunches by then, mostly out of pride, but some mornings, I'd still find that she'd slipped something into my bag. A granola bar, a juice box, a note. Sometimes I teased her for it. Mom, I'm 17. You don't have to do that anymore. She'd just smile. I know, but I want to. And then, one day in May, she packed me a full lunch again. I opened it at school and paused. Everything was there. My favorite sandwich, a bag of pretzels, apple slices with cinnamon, and a note. This might be the last lunch I packed. I just wanted you to know every time I made one. I thought about how lucky I am to be your mom. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't eat much that day. My throat was tight, my chest full of something I couldn't quite name. Grief, maybe, or gratitude, or both. The next week, I packed a lunch for her, peanut butter and jelly, because I remembered she liked it. I folded the napkin carefully and wrote, "Thanks for feeding me. In every way." I left it on the counter before I left for school. That night, she didn't say anything, but she kept the napkin. Years later, after she passed, I found a small box tucked in her drawer. Inside were dozens of those old notes, mine and hers. Some from elementary school, others from recent years. All worn, all folded with care. Tiny scraps of love. Now, as I pack lunches for my own children, I slip in a note when I can. Not every day, but often enough. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's simple. But always, it's from her. Because she showed me that love isn't just said, it's done. Packed gently, wrapped with care, tucked in when no one's watching. There are things you don't fully grasp until much later in life. Things like how a sandwich can carry love, or how a handwritten note can hold more meaning than 1,000 spoken words. For me, it wasn't until I had children of my own that I began to truly understand the depth of what she gave. Mornings in my house now are noisy, rushed, full of mismatched socks and forgotten homework. But every single day, I stand at the kitchen counter and make lunches. It's not glamorous, it's not profound, but it's one of the quiet ways I say, I see you, I love you, I'm here. And every time I press the edges of a sandwich closed, I think of her hands doing the same. Every time I scribble a quick note on a napkin, "Good luck on your test," or "You've got this," I remember the words she left for me when I needed them most. The words that taught me that love, the deepest kind, often comes without fanfare. No big gestures, no applause, just presence. Some days, I still find myself reaching for that box of old notes I kept from her drawer. I read them like scripture, gentle reminders of the steady, invisible ways she shaped who I am. The patience she modeled, the grace she gave freely, the lessons she never had to speak aloud. It's strange how we spend so many years trying to grow up and move on only to find ourselves returning to the same soft truths we once overlooked. The lunches were never just about food. They were her way of being with me, even when the world felt uncertain. Her way of fixing what she could. Her way of showing up. Even now, years later, when I visit her grave, I sometimes bring a sandwich and sit with her. I tell her about my kids, about how tired I am some mornings, about how I finally understand. And I whisper, "You didn't just feed me, you held me together." Because that's what she did, every day. With quiet hands. With simple acts. With love, packed gently between two slices of bread. She never asked for thanks, never needed recognition. But every lunch she packed was a quiet declaration of love. And now that I'm older, now that I'm a parent, I finally see it clearly. She didn't just feed me, she gave me everything. One lunch at a time.